Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. My name's Trevor Lane. Little bit of an impromptu show here on a Sunday afternoon. Happy to see you all here. We're going to be talking NBA trade deadline. Lots of buzz around the market. Lots of things going on right now. So I thought we would jump on, chat a little bit. I know there's some football going on right now. I have a feeling Philly's going to go to the Super Bowl here. But thought we'd jump in here and talk a little bit of NBA. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, how's your Sunday treating you?
Pretty good. Lazy day, not much going on. Not much going on, on the internet either. So I'm cool with that. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a little. I did some stuff for Lakers Nation earlier today. Was working on that. Been keeping an eye on some of the trade buzz and things of that nature. Had a few errands to run, but I guess let's get into it here. And I guess we'll start with this story that's out there. Jermaine Thomas, how do you guys feel about Kelly Olynyk, Davion Mitchell for Rui JHS in the last 2 seconds? So right now, the word
start off with the Lakers trade.
I know, starting off with, but really, this is what I want to talk about here. The Raptors are open to trading Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher, Davion Mitchell for seconds. So the Raptors very much open for business here on the market and putting out a price tag that's not crazy. I mean, second round draft capital for Olynyk, second round draft capital for Bruce Brown, who has started to play a bit better. I think those are reasonable prices. Now we can talk about salary matching and all of that, but the Raptors are pretty clearly positioning themselves on two fronts as a seller on the market. And we knew that, but also as a team that badly wants to be like a third or fourth or fifth or whatever team in like a Jimmy Butler trade, a Brandon Ingram trade. They want to be a team to help combine some expiring contracts and get something going there. So I think this is a really interesting situation with the Raptors. Is there anybody that you look at on that list and go, oh, that's a good value for second round picks?
Mitchell kind of stands out to me. Yep. I'd like Mitchell very much. I mean, Brown, we talked about him a lot in the last one. I think he'd be a nice fit too if you're the Lakers, but I think Mitchell is the one that really kind of stands out.
Yeah, I mean, Davion Mitchell, the problem is always the shooting with him.
Yeah,
there's some struggles there, but he could certainly give you something on the defensive side of the ball, which is always an attractive quality for teams, especially as the buyers on the market are mostly going to be teams looking to ramp things up for the playoffs. But you look at Davion Mitchell, $6.5 million, and then a restricted free agent. You look, Kelly Olynyk has another year under contract, but his contract is pretty comparable to that of, say, Robert Williams, Jonas Valanciunas. We're talking right in the same range as those other bigs that are out there on the market, and the price tag for them will probably be second-round picks. And then Bruce Brown at an expiring $23 million. I know the Raptors were hoping to get a lot better for him out there on the market, but, that's kind of the way it goes with him right now. And then Chris Boucher as well. It doesn't feel like Chris Boucher should be 32 years old, yet somehow he is. But he's at almost $11 million. So I don't think salary-wise any of these guys are, either massively overpaid, or at least in the case of Bruce Brown, who's overpaid, at least he's expiring. But I think this is all pretty reasonable from Toronto. I don't know that there's going to be buyers, because I think for every one of these players, there's other players in their category that might be more attractive on the trade market. But I think the Raptors can position themselves as kind of like the alternative to a lot of the guys that are out there if the asking prices get a little too high elsewhere.
Yeah, I think all those guys could bring value to a lot of different teams on the market. So Lakers or otherwise, I think that should be something that these guys or teams should be looking to kind of target some of these guys off this roster. I am kind of intrigued a little bit, like I said, with Mitchell specifically, because he's a little bit younger, and also a $6 million salary is much easier to put something together for than Bruce at 23. He's coming off that this offseason. He probably goes back to being a regular MLE or something lower than that guy, but it's just kind of hard to put together the salaries for that. And if you're talking about the Lakers, it's not the craziest thing because you have Rui. You can kind of put into a deal and put something around him. But for a lot of teams, 23, in my opinion, is just a little bit much for a guy that hasn't really been out there long enough to show you he's going to be healthy and good long term. He's starting to play better, but is a few weeks all the time you need to evaluate him? I'm not sure.
Well, and Jason, and you're right on that. And the same holds true of like like Jared Vanderbilt, someone like anybody that's kind of just returning. Even Lonzo Ball, you can question, has he done enough to rid himself of the kind of the injury tag that would typically be there. Jason throws in the report, did not say they're open to moving them for seconds. It said they're open to moving them and rival teams value them as worth second round picks. Well, I mean, I guess we put it this way. If the Raptors are asking for more than seconds, they're not getting them. They're not getting them for these guys. Look at it. Look at what's happened on the market so far. When we look at Dorian Finney-Smith, you look at Dennis Schroeder, Nick Richards. These guys are all somewhere around that range, where these are just rotation players right now for a team. Nobody's given up first for these guys unless it's
the market's been set, and they're not even if the market wasn't set, they're not guys that are worthy of a first round pick.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not guys that you're going to give up a first round pick for. So I mean, look, if the Raptors don't want to trade them, then ask for a first round pick, because then they're not gonna move unless something crazy like the Raptors are taking back horrible salary or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I don't see them getting a first for those guys. All right. Sky liked the skit I did over on Lakers Nation. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked that out, you have to give that a look.
I haven't had a chance to watch the new one.
I had some fun with it. I had a little fun with it. It was a good time. People are recommending that I call Jeannie next. I may have to do that.
Oh my God.
I may have to give Jeannie a little call. This though I thought was really interesting, Donnie. Kyle Kuzma's comments on the Washington Wizards sure didn't sound like anybody who wants to be there long term. In fact, it sounded very much like the opposite of that. Here's Kuzma's comment. He said, "I think today I just decided to be myself and not really try to fit into everything that we're doing here. Just being more assertive, demanding the ball, not just going out there and trying to let people develop, just playing my game." I mean, isn't the game right now development for the Washington Wizards?
Yeah, but that's not the game for Kuz, which is the point. Which is why he didn't be there and why he wants that. It's so interesting to me how, like, now that we're starting to approach the deadline, we're starting to get more and more like pressure pieces out there. Like this is something you should never say in public ordinarily, but because we're approaching the deadline and he's already said that he wants out, he's basically saying, hey, I don't want to be here in so many words, right? And putting it out there in the open. So I think this is absolutely pretty interesting. And like I said, it's not something you'd ordinarily hear somebody say.
No, definitely not. And look, he's not lying.
No,
right?
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong in this. Like, he's what is Kuzma now? Somehow 29. He's like 29. Like, how is...
Well, these guys come in as old rookies though. Like this was like what, 20, 23, 24? Yeah,
we're gonna be saying the same thing with Austin Reeves in a few years. Yeah, I mean, even Cam Johnson came in as an old rookie and he's already 28. But still, Kuzma's not wrong here. He needs to play his game, and that's part of why I think he hasn't been traded yet, because his numbers haven't been as good this year. And so there's other options out there for teams to look at. Teams are still waiting on Cam Johnson. I know a lot of the market right now is kind of frozen, waiting for the Jimmy Butler situation. In theory, a team that doesn't get Jimmy Butler could pivot to Kyle Kuzma or someone like that, maybe a Brandon Ingram. But when you have Kuz saying stuff like that, it's pretty clear what's best for Kuzma and what's best for the Wizards are simply two different things.
Yep. They're different. I think that he's had his fun. He went there, got the chance to kind of be one of the primary options on a team and all that stuff. And I think he's kind of had his fun, and he's come to the realization that he wants to be on a team that is out there trying to win. And unfortunately, that team does not, they're not on the same timeline, and they won't be, because Kuz is an older player now at 29, and he's probably looking at it like, I want to get an opportunity to win a championship again. But above all else, also get out there and play meaningful basketball to probably earn another contract as well going forward too. I think that's something to consider for him. But yeah, regardless, like I said, saying this stuff publicly is crazy. I don't necessarily blame him, but you just never would really hear this. In fact, you heard the opposite prior to the season from another vet in Jakob Poeltl. He's like, we're going to come out here and just basically tank. So
right, I know. He was funny when he was saying that. He's like, I'm going to play hard, but we're going to be tanking. So I enjoy that just bluntness, not trying to hide anything. Just, hey, it is what it is. I do think it's time for the Wizards to move on from Kuzma if they can find the right spot. for him. You said Kyle Kuzma's had his fun in Washington. I don't know if you've been watching Washington at all this year. It doesn't look very fun.
Well,
does not.
he's been there a few years now. He had his
He
fun the
has.
first couple years, and
He
now he's
has.
like, "Okay, get me out of here. This is not fun anymore."
Oh man. All right, let's go here. Spacey said, could the Lakers be creative like Phoenix and trade like JHS 2031 and a second for 3 decent firsts plus a few seconds or something, frees up a roster spot too? They could. But Donnie, like I think, like I gave Phoenix a lot of credit for being very creative and being very proactive and doing what they did. But it has to turn into something.
Yeah.
Right. Like if they don't turn this into something, right? And the reason to do this is because if you turn one pick into 3, one potentially really good pick into 3 not so great picks, the reason to do it is if you have to pay multiple teams because you can't split up, you're splitting it up so you can give 2 picks to one, say 2 picks to Miami, 1 pick to Milwaukee, something like that, right? That's why you do that. If it doesn't turn into anything, then yeah, it was creative, but I don't like it that much for Phoenix. I think the risk is huge if this doesn't turn into some kind of a move here for them.
Well, you mean like a follow-up, like Jimmy trade or something?
Oh, yeah. Like
okay. Well, I thought you meant like a championship or
no, like a follow-up trade. It has to be if the trade deadline comes and goes and they don't change anything.
Yeah, then
that's not great. Really, right? When we start to think about what these picks actually are, let's call them 3 late firsts. If you got 2 rotation players out of those 3 late firsts, you're doing pretty well, right? You've done pretty well out of 3 late firsts if you get 2 rotation players out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe you only get 1 rotation player. Maybe you get 3, but most likely you're going to get 1 or 2 rotation players. But the potential is there that 2031 first could be a really high pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would give up 1 or 2 maybe rotation players for a shot at a top pick, which could be the next Wemby. Who knows? I mean, the kid being drafted in 2031 is in like 8th grade right now. Yeah. So who knows what that could wind up being? Well, maybe even 7th grade.
The flaw with that logic is that they can't, like, you have to have an eye towards the future, but you can't focus solely on the future because your timeline is right now. So that's where, like, yeah, you probably are giving up, you're probably getting back 1 or 2 rotation players if you're lucky from the picks that you got back. But really what it is with the picks is not so much that they want to use those picks. It's because they need the flexibility, like you were saying, to be able to make multiple deals. So I do fully think that they're going to turn this into something. I don't know if it's going to be the big splashy Jimmy trade, but I think that if you've got KD, you've got to go in right now. Like, I don't know if there's any more like win now players in the league than that old guard of like KD, LeBron, Steph. You just got to, in my opinion, go in and see if it can turn into something because you've got these guys now. You're not going to have them much longer. You could maybe say that's foolish from another perspective. You could maybe say that's not the right thing to do when you talk about any of these guys and their teams. But personally, I think that they have shown that they can get it done at the highest level. To varying degrees, of course, throughout their careers. And I think that they're all still extremely good, and you should try to put your team in the best position possible to win now. And I think Phoenix has been extremely creative with what they've been able to do, being hamstrung by the second apron, and getting the deals that they got in the offseason, pulling off the trades like Nick Richards, and then now this, to where they're opening up the other trades for the other picks that they could potentially use. Because that's another piece too, is that they're now able to trade their own picks in other years if they wanted to do that because of the Stepien. Like, they may hold on to these, but they could have other very valuable picks that they're giving out too to kind of make this work. So, but if it doesn't turn into anything, I agree with you. It's terrible. But we won't know that until a few years from now,
well,
if it really was a bad trade.
Until the trade deadline.
Well, yeah, immediately.
Well, you mean if it's bad, like, oh my God, they gave up the number 1 overall pick in 2031.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll know immediately if they don't get something at the deadline, then like, what the heck are
you have to? You have to get something.
But like a few years from now, we won't know what that pick. We won't know until the Bills do on that pick. So.
Yeah, I think they have to get something done. If they don't get something done by the deadline, then it's it's a mistake in terms of risk management, right? But if you get something and you say, hey, we've got a 36-year-old KD, we got to go win right now, and you get Jimmy, and then you've got a shot to come out of the West, okay, hey, that's fine, totally understandable why they would go do that. Now, Dominic says, I agree, Butler to the Suns doesn't make them much better.
The follow-up for that was replying to this.
They're still not going anywhere.
Yeah, so I was going to bring that up.
Okay,
do you think that moves the needle enough for them?
Essentially, what we're talking about is turning Bradley Beal into Jimmy Butler. Does that move the needle? I kind of think now. I won't say it makes them like the team, and I think that's part of the problem. Is people look for a move that makes you clear cut the team. You are now definitely coming out of the West or the East, depending on what conference you're in. And I don't think those moves are there.
There's not a move like that.
Exactly.
That can definitively say you're going to get out the West. There's not anything like that.
And that's
for any team, I don't think.
And that's what people are looking for, which it doesn't exist. I do think it gives them a much better shot. I think it gives them a better shot come playoff time. I think he can be, again, come playoff time, maybe not in the middle of January in the regular season, but Jimmy's a better defensive player by far than Bradley Beal. He can give you more there. Yes, he can score the basketball, but he can also facilitate a little bit. And we know, I mean, come playoff time, Jimmy's a dog, right? Jimmy's got that fight in him. And so I think that this does help the Suns. Would I suddenly make them my favorite to come out of them? No. But I think this gives them a chance. Whereas right now, I don't think they have a chance at coming out of the West. I think this at least gives them a puncher's chance. KD goes on a tear. Booker's lighting it up. You're getting rid of Yusuf Nurkic. We'll talk about him in a minute. You've turning him into Nick Richards, who's been a nice find for them so far. You've got Oso. You've changed around a lot of this roster, which in and of itself is fairly impressive. Just being able to change up the roster as much as they have and I think are going to do, given that they're a second-tier apron team, that's impressive. But I do think this would give them a chance. Not a great chance, but a chance.
Yeah, I think that a lot of I don't want to say a lot, but I feel like silently a lot. But anyway, we at least got some recent reporting in regards to like LeBron and AD and how they kind of view the West. And it was that aside from basically OKC, they feel like it's open. Like it
is.
And if that's how these guys feel, not just them, but like KD, the Suns, whoever, Memphis, whatever team feels like it's open and you have a shot, then even if it doesn't put you head and shoulders above, who knows what happens when you get into a series? Who knows what happens 40 games from now before the playoffs even start? Mm-hmm. Who knows, like if everyone's going to be healthy, if these teams have other issues that happen, you don't know. And then when you get to the playoffs, maybe you get the right matchups. Like maybe you don't have to play OKC. Maybe they get bounced in a different round by a different team and then you beat that team. Like who knows, right? So if you feel like it's all open and you could get there and make magic happen, then that's more or less, I think, what you would bank on. But I think that the West has shown that, like, again, aside from OKC, and I want to also give the second and third seeds some love too. But mainly OKC's kind of running away with it. But aside from that, the West has been a dogfight. Yeah. And it's just shuffling constantly. So, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Now, it may not pan out that way. OKC may just steamroll everybody, but, at least that's hindsight 2020 and all. At least they feel that way. So who knows what could happen?
I mean, look at the West right now. OKC is 6 games up.
Yeah. The East also looks a little bit like this now, too, there's a lot of like dogfights going on.
Although, look at the Cavs. They've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah. And it's brought them back to the pack.
Yeah. A little bit. But okay, so look at the point differential. Look at the opponent's points. 104. Like nobody's close. Look at the East opponent's points. Look at you've got the Orlando Magic is the other team, the only other team, right, holding somebody at 104. Offense. I mean, unbelievable.
But look at the offense difference between them and the Magic. That's why I said they may just steamroll everybody. Who knows? Like they're my favorite to win it this year. But
yeah. Point differential says they should be, but I mean, my God, like I do think it's OKC and then everybody else in the West. And that's okay, right? That's okay. I'm not saying, look, there's no team that should feel like, oh, we're clearly better than OKC right now. But hey, you get into a 7-game series against Houston, against Memphis, Denver, the Lakers, Clippers, the Wolves, the Suns, the Mavs, the Kings, any
That's a
of these teams.
toss-up, I think.
Right, exactly. It's a toss-up for now. Some of these styles make fights. I'm sure the Lakers wouldn't want to see the Nuggets, right? For example, some of these teams will struggle with certain opponents, but most of these teams have to feel like, you know what? We get the right opponent. It's not like this team, there's such a gap in quality between this team and this team to where, oh, we just have no shot. I mean, the West is very much, I think, up in the air.
Well, with that being said, circling back to the Jimmy thing, do you think that you said they have a shot? What would you say that shot is?
I mean, I still think in the NBA, and yes, 3-point shooting is better. Oh, a Nuggets fan saying the Nuggets don't want anything to do with Minnesota.
I mean, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Styles
yesterday?
make fights.
See, like I actually kind of okay. So like, I'm not saying this to like down talk the Wolves. Firstly, I think they're worse. Secondly, I thought Denver had that series, but they let several leads go, and they let like a 20-point lead go in Game 7. Like I think they could have won that series, and then maybe even made a run because they won that series.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that they don't want to see him just because they haven't had the best success since then. But I do think that, again, styles make fights, like you said.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. I think Minnesota is structured well enough to kind of take it to Denver and just like
out there, and
exactly,
kind of slows Jokic down a little bit.
Exactly. So, but going back to Phoenix, do I think that they can actually get through? I still, as much as like, there's the old heads will say you can't win by shooting threes, and that is just completely untrue, right? Completely untrue. But yet still people are still stupid in saying that, right? But I don't think that necessarily means that the old adage that defense wins championships is wrong. I think you need defense to win championships, and that's what I think the Suns do not have. And so that's why I don't see them advancing. I don't. But could KD get hot? Could Booker get hot and ultimately lead them to a win in a series? Could Jimmy Butler give them a little bit more grit and force them to dig down deep defensively? Sure, that could happen. But I wouldn't pick Phoenix to be, even if they get Jimmy Butler, I wouldn't pick them to be my team coming out. I just would say it's not impossible for them to.
With that being the case, is it worth investing in your opinion, then?
Yeah. You've got KD. You got KD. You got Booker. You've got a shot. Because otherwise, I mean, it's kind of similar to the Lakers. And otherwise, like, if you're going to tell Kevin Durant, like, hey, you know, it's not worth it, we're not worth investing in, then what are we doing? Then start talking about trading KD and give him a real shot at it.
Well, that's why I said, like, I don't know that there's any more win now players in the league than those guys. Yeah. So if you've got KD, you've got to kind of just go for it, in my opinion. But yeah. And the best move they can make is getting Butler right now, and also getting off of the issues with the flexibility with Beal, because maybe with Jimmy, they short sign him to a short-term deal that's movable sooner than the no player option, trade clause thing would have been with Beal anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
All right, let's go here. Kevin says, I feel like the Lakers have enough perimeter defense in Vando, DFS, Max, maybe even Gabe. They hold Curry to 0 points in the second half. They need a big. I do think they need a big. I don't think there's any question about that. Anthony Davis has made it very clear that they need a big. Jackson Hayes may have been sulking a little bit after that in the corner. I feel for him. But, yeah, they need another big. There's no question they need another big. The problem is I think they need multiple things. And when we talk about perimeter defense, I think they need defense specifically at the guard position. Gabe can give that to you a little bit, but I also think you could use someone else who can initiate the offense as well. I think we've seen that Gabe Vincent is not really that. He's more of a secondary creator. So I really think they need both those things. They need a big and another guard who can be, even if it's just a secondary initiator, just somebody else who can handle the basketball so that when they do have a lineup that's, you know, Gabe and Max and AD and like Finney Smith or something, the offense doesn't really just all come down to somehow get the ball to Anthony Davis and then hope he gets something going. You need somebody else who can create, and they don't have that right now.
Yeah, I like that lineup just on paper, but I don't
Yeah,
like it for the lack of creation in that group. All those guys are finishers, basically, including AD for the most part. Like
yeah.
they're all finishers instead of initiators. So
Oh, you can see it. They get out there, and it's like they get a little bit. And I like that group defensively; they're good, but
yeah,
they get a little bit kind of deer in headlights
they
type.
don't really
Like
know what they want to do.
when they get in a half court offense, they're like, I guess you take the ball. Well, I don't know what to do with it. You take it. I don't know what to do with it. And then finally somebody shoots it before 24 seconds expire.
Yeah. I wish it when they would do that they would lean more on JJ's play calling and sets, because that's one way to kind of mitigate that.
Sure.
But they haven't really been doing that as much. Hopefully that's something that they gradually go to more, but up till now they haven't really been.
All right, let's go here. Said I meant to say trade our picks to Washington for their picks. Oh. So do like give 2031 pick to Washington. We get the idea. In exchange for 3 future firsts or something. Here's another Lakers one. Billy said if we can move Rui for Bruce and seconds, well, I think the seconds would probably wind up going the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you send Dalton Connect and a first for Kessler? I feel like combined could be worth it. Got to risk it to get the biscuit. Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal if you can get both Kessler and Bruce Brown, but it would be Rui plus you've got to add Rui's 17 million in salary, Bruce Brown's 23 million. So you've got to add more salary to Rui to get there. Then you're getting Bruce Brown. I don't know, like, is Bruce Brown better than Rui?
Today, yes, because I saw fans are extremely down on Rui after yesterday.
Oh yeah, people are ready because Rondo looks so good. They're like, that's it. We don't need Rui. Get him out of here. Go.
Yep. I think there's very clear strengths and weaknesses where both of them are one's better than the other at certain things.
Sure.
But in terms of like what this team needs more, I'd probably say Bruce is more of the archetype what this team needs more.
Yeah. That's
also
fair.
I like that he could be a little bit more of an initiator for this team, you know, short role playmaker, things like that. Rui isn't really that's not Rui.
That's a good way to sum it up. Bruce Brown fits better than Rui does.
Yeah,
sure. I would agree with that. Then the Kessler thing, like, I don't even know if connecting a first is enough. I mean, based on my phone call with Rob earlier today, it wasn't. He wanted more than that. But of course, that's all tongue in cheek. But yeah, like it's sounding more like the Jazz want like a lot.
The way the reporting is, it sounds like they want both first, both seconds, and connect. Like, is that what they really want? Like,
it's starting to feel like a little bit like the Nets and Kyrie. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
When it was like the Nets, in order to give Kyrie to the Lakers, the price was like up here, and for everybody else, it was here because they were pissed at Kyrie.
Yeah,
and they didn't want to send Kyrie where he wanted to go.
They weren't dealing in good faith because they didn't want to send him where he wanted to go.
Exactly.
Like there was zero chance it was going to happen. The asking price was just astronomically high.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I've said repeatedly, I think Utah is extremely stupid for having him on the block, but you know, I don't know if they even wind up trading him at this point. Maybe the report is true that, you know, if teams wanted him, they should have targeted him prior to him starting to play in this season.
Let me ask you this. If the total output, let's say, is roughly the same for the Lakers, I'm talking in terms of draft capital, would you rather get Bruce Brown and Walker Kessler or Miles Turner and let's call it Davion Mitchell?
The first one.
The first one, Bruce Brown and Walker Kessler.
Yeah.
Overturn.
You have more long-term upside, in my opinion.
If you could trade Connect and a first for Walker Kessler or Rui, let's call it JHS, a first and a second for Miles Turner, what are you doing there?
Oh, that's tough. I'm pretty high on Connect. Connect's so polarizing to me because like he gives up everything that he scores basically.
right.
So like, but he looks so good doing it. And that's what I was gonna say too. Is like you don't know if he's gonna ever put it together. shoot, that's a tough one. I don't know.
I-
Kat, what would you do?
I go
may
Turner.
lean more. I was gonna say I may lean more Turner, but that's a tough one.
Yeah, I go Turner. I think in a vacuum, I think Turner is the better fit.
Yeah,
right now. But he's also older. He's 28, 29, something like that.
That's what I was gonna say. Kessler's 23.
Exactly. So that's the the trade-off there. But just in terms of skill set, Turner's not as good of a shot blocker as Kessler, but he gives you way more on the offensive end. Or rebounder, absolutely. But he fits so much better offensively. I think he fits on both ends of the floor, whereas Kessler, fits defensively. Offensively, it's a little bit tough. Whereas Turner is kind of plug and play, like, all right, let's go. We can make that work pretty easy.
I think it's still plug and play works with Kessler too, to be honest, because he's a lob threat. I think it works.
Sure.
It's just a different look, is what it is. You could put Miles in different actions in different spots that you just can't do with Kessler.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Speaking of the devil, Miguel Zambrano says the Lakers get Turner, Utah gets Dalton Connect in a first and protection removal on the 2027 first, and Indy gets Rui and Walker Kessler. Ooh. So you've got to give up Rui, Connect, and a first to get Turner. That feels like a lot. I would do that if I'm Indy. If I'm Indy and I'm worried about paying Miles Turner, I would do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, the other thing, though, to keep in mind is for Indiana to trade Turner, they have to really believe they're not going to come to an agreement, because even turning Turner into Kessler would change everything about the way they operate on the offensive end.
Mm-hmm.
That's a major shift.
Yeah, that's tough. But still, I mean, we talked about how they need a big. That's not a bad big to get.
No.
I don't know if they need Rui, though. I feel like they've got a lot of wings already over there, and some guys that they need to get minutes for, like Walker and stuff. Like, I don't know if they need Rui.
He could be flipped to another team, I think, if need be.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem with a Laker trade just directly with them also, is you'd have to do Rui, and I don't think they need Rui.
That's fair. Yeah. You'd have to get creative. Have to figure it out. J1, why do Lakers need a big? They have an elite defender in Anthony Davis. Well, for one, because Anthony Davis is now publicly asking for another big. He wants to have more opportunities to play the four. He's literally been asking for that for years.
Yep.
My opinion is I think he's more 5 than 4 right now. But I understand you want to have the opportunity to play him at the 4 when the situation calls for it. So that's part of it. I also think when you look at this team right now, they are one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. And that's a problem that probably needs to be solved. So that's an important piece to this too.
Yeah. I was listening to Jovan earlier, and he had a good take on this. He said he thinks he's more 5 than 4, but he thinks that it's more about the way AD views himself internally, and just the way he thinks about himself as a player. He thinks he's more of a 4. But he said, if you were to describe AD without knowing who the player is, his size, his weight, where he scores from on the floor, his rim protection, all that stuff, it's a 5. It's a quintessential 5. But because of the fact that he wants to play a different way and has always wanted to play a different way, I think you've got to just kind of capitulate to that and just put it together. And also the team's like 28th in rebounding. So like,
exactly.
They can use it.
And if he's going to be your guy post LeBron, if it's going to be AD, and there are going to be people who say, no, it shouldn't be and all of that. But if he's going to be your guy, do you really want to set that precedent of like, no, we've fought you for years of not giving you what it is that you're asking for, which isn't an unreasonable thing to ask for. Hey, I'd like to have another center to play with. Like, that's not a crazy thing to be asking for. And you've given LeBron what he asked for multiple times. He wanted another ball handler. You gave him Dennis Schroeder. That didn't work out. You went and got him Russell Westbrook. Right. And I'm not trying to place all the blame of Russ on LeBron or anything like that. But I don't know if that's a great look when you gave LeBron what he wanted, what he's been requesting, and then AD's asking for something and you just keep saying no, especially if AD's going to be your guy.
they've been giving AD the bottom of the barrel stuff, like
Yeah.
Hayes and like
Here's-
over the
but
last
my guy, Damian Jones, God, it still hurts.
over the last few years, they've given him literally the bottom of the barrel guys, like DeAndre Ayton, excuse me, Jordan a few years ago. Like they've been giving him those guys, which DeAndre's actually been kind of serviceable right now in Denver, which is funny. But back then, he looked like he was unplayable. So,
how did Dennis Schroeder not work out the first time he came to the Lakers when they traded for him? Like you could have had Des Bane, could have had Jaden McDaniels with that pick. And then you gave up Danny Green and you got Schroeder, which at the time it was a more than fine trade. But then he walked away for nothing. So that draft capital that you gave up and everything, it turned into nothing. That's how it didn't work out. I know he came back a couple years later, but I'm talking about that first stint with Schroeder.
Yeah, and there was all that saga of did he get offered X amount of money and not accept it or not?
The $84 million or whatever.
Yeah, he says that offer didn't come. So I don't know.
Maybe he didn't have the paper in front of him to sign or something. I don't buy it. Anyway, let's go here, though. Nikola Vucevic, another big that's out there on the market. One of the things I love about this year's trade market, there are so many bigs that are out there, whether it's Clint Capella, Rob Williams, Jonas. I mean, you got a bunch of maybe Jakob Poeltl, maybe Miles Turner, maybe Walker Kessler. You got a bunch of bigs to potentially pursue. But the Warriors are finding themselves in a little bit of trouble. Now, they are dealing with injuries. They're without Draymond right now. And they're also without Jonathan Kuminga, who's dealing with an ankle sprain. So that's not good for them. They're currently the 11th seed. They're a game back of the play-in, not the playoffs, the play-in. Man, Donnie, do you remember the Warriors were like the 2 seed, 3 seed?
I don't know if I sent it to you, but I saw something saying they've lost. They've only won 10 of their last 30 games or something like that.
Oh my God.
Like it was brutal. When I saw that, I was like, there's no way. But they fell off hard. Man,
they've dropped off in a big way. They're 4-6 in their last 10. And they are probably the most often team named to pursue Nikola Vucevic and they've got expiring contracts that they can send out in a deal with the Bulls. Does Vucevic move the needle for the Warriors? Does he put them back up into the mix in playoff contention if they get him?
As in, like, how many spots?
At least into the play-in.
Play-in? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, if you replace, who were they running? Kevon Looney, Quentin Post was out there
cooking the other day.
Post was cooking, yeah. He's the postman, but he delivers. But if you are, I know, so bad.
You're only allowed to do that for Lakers players. Don't do that.
Oh man, could you imagine if he ever became a Laker? Oh, I would have so much fun.
Same way you would have fun with Grady Dick.
Oh no, I would not survive that. I would not survive that. Our show would come to an end. I wouldn't be able to get through a show. I would not make it. Is this enough for the Warriors to justify sacrificing assets to get Vucevic?
To go into the play-in?
Yeah.
What are the assets? Just matching salary in seconds? Sure.
Yeah. Let's say it's matching salary rates. Now the Bulls right now are telling everybody they want it first, but let's say they blink before the trade deadline and you can get them for, let's call it 3 seconds. 3 seconds and expiring salary. Maybe it could be Dennis Schroeder. Maybe, the Bulls don't need another guard, but whatever, they've got plenty of expirings to pull from. Expiring salary, 3 seconds. Does that move? Does turning Quentin Post and Kevon Looney, maybe some of the Draymond at the 5 minutes into Nikola Vucevic, does that move the needle enough for them?
Yeah, sure. Like it would, move the needle into play-in range is not very hard. They're right there. Like I think that would be fine. And that's a pretty big margin. There's 4 seeds that they could potentially be a part of when it's all said and done. Sure. I don't know, like they're in a weird spot because they fell off so much, but like I said earlier, I think if you've got Steph, you should probably try to go in. But there's been a lot of mixed reporting on that, like Steph saying, "Oh, don't mortgage," but also, "Oh, if you think I'm okay being on a mediocre team, you're crazy." Oh, like it's been a back and forth thing.
Yeah.
I think Vucevic would fit pretty well with what they like to do. They've gotten success out of that style of center before in the past. You think back to who didn't they when they won it that year? Didn't they have Bielitsa on their team a couple years back?
I believe so.
Like I think you can make it work. I think he'd fit pretty good. I think they've got a good defense right now where he could kind of slot in and not take a ton away from it. He's a contrasting player to Draymond. I think they'd fit pretty well in the front court together. And I think they can get the most out of them there. I like that fit. But I mean, if that's one where they're just kind of going to make it into playing range, but I don't know if they win their playing game, and I don't think they win a first round series either. So,
like, who would, like, let's say they get into the play-in, would you project them to beat the Mavs?
No,
I wouldn't either. What about the Suns?
Assuming they're healthy, of course. Phoenix,
right. No. What about and the Wolves? No. The Kings would probably play out like last. I don't know that they would beat the.
But I don't want
the Kings.
I don't want to say it so dismissively though, because all it takes is a heater from Steph.
Yeah, right. We're talking one game.
Yeah, but that one game, if he gets hot for one game,
exactly.
Man, I don't want to say it so dismissively, because he could easily, go off for 45 or 50 and just get hot and put them into it. But I just don't expect them to get out of the first round, especially as a play-in team, because then you're going to probably play a top 1 or 2 seed. So,
yeah, and I know Steph was not happy with how poorly they played last night's game and talked about that. So, I still wonder, like, to me, it makes so much sense for them to be a team to go after Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I think.
And so far they've resisted. I wonder though if at some point they get. I mean, obviously the clock's ticking. We got like a week and a half, a little bit more. If they just say, you know what, maybe we do need to do something a bit more drastic than what we wanted to.
Yeah, I understand why they wouldn't want to, do more than this. I do understand that. I just think that's the wrong decision to make, personally.
Yeah,
and I think Jimmy's the only move out there that truly takes them up another level. And some of the Jimmy thing is also, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to continue the production he's been giving? And will he be playoff Jimmy when it's time? Like that, those are things we don't talk enough about, but there is question to that. Like, I don't know what Jimmy will be when it counts,
Yeah.
But I think he takes them up another level for sure. I think he'd fit fine. Like I like their construction around Steph, and I think Jimmy slots in pretty seamlessly.
All right, let's go here. 3-team trade idea. Lakers get Josh Green and Cody Martin via Charlotte, and Day'Ron via Brooklyn. Charlotte gets Rui and JHS. Does Charlotte want Rui? Maybe. Brooklyn gets Wood, Cam, and seconds. Wood, Cam, and seconds for Day'Ron. So 2 expiring salaries. It's really they're getting second-round picks for Day'Ron. We lose Rui and a shooter, a wing defender, and a 5, but get a wing defender and a 5. So you wind up netting Josh Green, Cody Martin, and Day'Ron Sharpe. I don't know. Like, I like Day'Ron a lot, but do the Lakers get Day'Ron and then Anthony Davis goes, oh, cool, that's the guy I wanted? Yeah, I don't know if he's the guy that you plug in every single night and he checks that box for you. Mm-hmm. But I don't hate, getting 2 wings and Josh Green and Cody Martin, you're giving up Rui, but you are adding more depth at the center position. So I don't mind this, but I don't know that this is what AD is talking about.
Yeah. So the Lakers are getting wings?
Yeah, but you're getting a big. I think it would have made more sense if Day'Ron was the guy coming back in the Dorian Finney-Smith trade.
Yeah, he needed to be in that deal.
That's where you need to do it.
But to be honest, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of them going for a player like Kessler, like Turner, a bigger name center, because I think that puts pressure and the onus on the franchise and JJ to play these players. If they get Day'Ron, he may not really play more than like 10, 15 minutes. Like, I don't know what they're doing there, because they're not really having to give up. But if you've got to say, we're going to give up 2 first-round picks or whatever it is, they're going to tell him, JJ, this guy needs to start. Like, this guy needs to play 25 minutes a night. It has to happen. you can't bury this guy. He can, because especially right now with Vando being back, and I expect him fully to take Jackson's minutes. Like I don't really know what's going to happen otherwise until they get another center. Like that wouldn't. I think that may happen with Dayron too. Maybe he's just so good as a rebounder or something that he's able to supersede that. But I would be very worried about them getting somebody like that.
Yeah. All right, let's go here. Spacey said, what you're talking about is exactly why Sexton and Kessler for Rui, JHS, Jackson Hayes is good. Don't even have to trade Gabe. Keep him with Sexton in the second unit. Yeah, I mean, he definitely opens things up on the offensive end. But if I'm Utah, I might that's a both first deal. At least they probably want more than that. Here's the problem. We have to remember what is a player for an incoming team. And this is true not of just the Lakers, of everybody. Every team. If you are a rebuilding team like Utah is, Rui doesn't do anything for you. So the value isn't in Rui. And JHS is still hurt. He's still in the injury report is out. He doesn't do anything for you. Jackson Hayes didn't do anything for you. So it's not about any of the players. It's like the Lakers value Rui for what he can do on the floor. Utah isn't going to care about that. They might as well send him to a third team.
Yeah.
And try to get something for him. They're not going to care about that. So if you look at it from a Lakers perspective, and again, this is true of any team that is trying to make a trade for a rebuilding team, some of the pieces that you've got that can play right now, the team getting them don't care that they can play right now. So that can be a challenge when we're trying to figure out value. It will be all about the draft capital for Utah.
Yeah, and I think with this deal, you have to get both first as well.
Yeah. Barry said Miles Turner feels overrated. Need a rebounding big and a wing that can get his own shot and defend enough. And Jose Alvarado would be great if healthy. I don't know if the Pelicans are trading him, but is Miles Turner overrated?
I mean, what is his rating currently? Like, I don't.
Right. I've got him as a sub all-star level big.
Yeah, that's about where I'd have him too. Like a guy that could be a injury replacement. So
yeah, he's not at all. He's one tier below an all-star level player, I think. He blocks shots. He does. So I think one of the reasons why, if you're going to try to make the argument that Miles Turner is overrated, one of the reasons why he would be overrated is because the two things that he does are fairly loud things, right? And that's make threes and block shots. Both of those things are loud happenings in the NBA when a three gets hit, when a shot gets blocked. So that's part of it. Is he a great rebounder? No. You can see now he's dropped below 7 rebounds per game right now.
Never happened for a big.
Right.
Just playing that many minutes.
Yeah. Turnovers have gone up this year, so that's not good. So I guess he's Miles Turnover now instead of Miles Turner.
God damn.
48% from the field, which is actually low compared to recent seasons. But again, how many bigs do you find that can block shots and space the floor? I mean, Brook Lopez, but he's 57 years old. So there's not a lot of guys that are going to give you both of those things. Bobby Portis is one that can, but there's just not a ton of these guys out there. That's part of it too. It's scarcity. How many bigs? You can find bigs who can shoot the three. Nikola Vucevic can shoot the three. You can find bigs who can block shots. Clint Capella can block shots. Clint Capella can't shoot threes. Nikola Vucevic can't block shots. Finding somebody who can do both those things can be tough.
Yeah, I think that's the intrigue with Turner, is that he can do those, and those 3-and-D guys, they're especially at the center position, pretty hard to come by, like you were saying. So yeah. I think that's for sure the intrigue with him. But there are holes in his game, but that's fine. That's why he's not overrated. Like he's not a all-star level center that's going to give you 25 and 10 every night or anything like that. He's 15 and 7. Like that's, and with a couple blocks and 36 or 37% from three. That's pretty great. I'll take that.
I think about, you add him to, in this case, I know a lot of people are talking Lakers. So you add him to Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Okay. You make the rim a no-fly zone, right? If you've got two shot blockers on the floor together in tandem like that, and both of them have the ability to move their feet a bit better than most bigs can. Jackson Hayes can move his feet better than most bigs can. He's just not much of a shot blocker or whatever at the rim. Turner gives you that. So I think there's reason to be optimistic about what Miles Turner could provide, and not just for the Lakers, for any team that could be looking to get him.
Since we talked about Lakers, are there any teams out there that you think should be targeting him? It's kind of
I
hard
want.
because I feel like a lot of teams have good bigs.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, the Mavs. I don't know what salary they would send out, but now that they've lost Maxi Kleba too,
Yeah,
like that's a
yeah.
lot that they're now missing. They're missing Derek Lively, but then long term, do they want to pay him when they're kind of committed now to Gafford and Lively? They would have to make a future move there. Orlando could use another big, certainly, but again, is he the long term fit there? But yeah, I mean, it's fair. There's not as many teams that are really in need of a big right now. I think Sacramento is motivated to make a move. Are they going after a big? Probably not.
Yeah.
But does it make things a little bit
They
better at the
actually need a
rim
big,
with
but I don't
Sabonis?
know that you want to pair those two together again. It didn't work last time.
That's true. That's true.
But they need a big.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's tricky, but we talked a lot about how the market for bigs. There's some good bigs on the market, but these teams don't necessarily need bigs. A lot of them anyway. Especially the best teams in the league. Yeah, they could use a third big or something like that, or a backup big. But you're not going to get some of these guys like a Pirtle, like a Turner, like a Kessler, probably as well, and throw them as your backup in a lot of cases.
All right, we're gonna do a few more here. My farce said AD, Indy. Sorry, I'm so used to saying AD. Indy has to pay Hallie, Matherin, and Nemhard. Could you get Nemhard? I'm very high on him. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think Indy wants to move him. I think they made that pretty clear. But yeah, that's part of the reason why Turner could suddenly become available. It's similar to the Brandon Ingram situation where the Pelicans are like, yeah, we'll pay BI, but we don't want to go into the tax. And so if we pay him what he wants, we're in the tax. So we'll pay him, but only up to a certain level. Turner could put the Pacers in the same situation. If he's saying, I want 30, I want 35, whatever, that could push them into the tax, especially when you add in that they've got to pay these other guys. But I don't see them moving on from that. I know they're really high on Nemhard. As far as going for Robert Williams, yeah, I mean, it all depends on how risk averse are you. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen, but Rob would be an interesting fit.
Sure. Love Memphis build, but too many young, good players. Reminded me of OKC back then. Edie will need money eventually, but Jaren Jackson Jr., Bane are maxed. Interesting, though. Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? You've got too many good young players.
It should remind you of the current build for OKC.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It really is. It really is. It's the same build. So I like Memphis a lot. I still think Jimmy is a fool for not wanting to go to Memphis, unless I get it. If Memphis says we only see you as an expiring contract and we're going to use you as a way to clear salary, then I would get why he maybe doesn't want to go to Memphis. And we talked about that the other day. I think he'd be a great fit there. I think Memphis should be a buyer on the market that maybe looks to add a wing. I think they're trying to play Marcus Smart at the wing position a lot. I'd like to see somebody with some size there, but I mean, I think Memphis, of all the non-OKC teams in the West, Memphis has just as good a shot at anybody at coming out of the West when the dust settles.
Absolutely. Like, that's a spot where, like, if a Jimmy goes there, maybe that's enough to put them over the top. Like, I don't know if a Jimmy going to Phoenix or Golden State is enough, but a Memphis, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he doesn't want to go there, and we just explained why, and that's fine. If that's what it is, then I don't really mind that. Like, that's understandable.
Right. Yeah, I get that. It came across so weird. Like, anywhere but Miami or Memphis.
Before we knew the context.
Before we heard any of that stuff. But I'd have to, like, if they tried to trade him to Washington or something, he'd be like, no, not there either.
Within reason. Don't send me to Washington or another bottom feeder team right now. And they wouldn't trade for him anyway, but don't send me those places.
What would be the funniest outcome? Not the best outcome for Jimmy, but the funniest place that Pat Riley could send him.
The most chaotic option is to keep him. That's the most chaotic option.
Keep him and then say either take a mid-level exception somewhere this summer or pick up your $52 million. We're not letting you go anywhere.
That would be so. That I can't even, man. That would be so messed up. That would be so messed up. Oh my god.
I mean, but then take a step back and think about it. Like, you get paid $52 million to live in Miami for a year. Like,
for a year,
I know it's a different situation, but my god.
The funniest place to send him is probably Charlotte.
Oh,
Maybe Charlotte.
right. That'd be funny. With LaMelo, but like I can't imagine LaMelo and Jimmy would
They don't
mesh
seem like.
well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think their personalities would mesh.
No.
So that, he's gonna probably be annoying the hell out of Jimmy.
Jimmy would be like, "Are you kidding me with this? Really?" Oh, all right. Let's go here. Dober said, with Gabe's recent resurgence, is there a chance he declines his player option? No, because he doesn't have a player option. He's just flat $11.5 million next season. There is no player option.
Or team option either, huh?
Or team option. Yep. So that's why.
I feel like Rob could have got a team option on that. Because he got paid for like 2 months of good basketball.
Right. I'm amazed he didn't surrender a player option on it, though. Because he tends to pass those things out like candy, but
he gave everyone else one.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that would have been a good one to have a team option on for sure. Yeah. No question.
But I like what he's been giving. I liked him when he was putting up all zeros, if I'm being honest, just because the intangible stuff. We talked about it before on LN. Like he's doing things that don't show up in the box score, but now they're actually finally showing up in the box score, and he's playing much better as a result.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, I think we've covered a lot of topics. So we went longer than we anticipated, but appreciate everybody coming in here and joining. Obviously, a little bit of an impromptu show here, but you know what? We've been really happy and really impressed with how many people have been joining the channel, subscribing. If you're not a subscriber right now, please make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Real quick, a super chat coming in. Andrew said, bench Rui and Austin, get Miles. I mean, benching, I guess you'd have to bench Rui if you're going to get, but you'd probably have to use Rui to get Miles. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know who's starting for Austin. Are they just doing super size?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
You'd have to have some kind of ball handler out there. But anyway, thank you, everybody, for coming in here and for joining us. A little bit of an impromptu show today, but we've been, beyond happy about the support that we received here on the channel. So we appreciate all of you who've been hanging out with us and all the coverage that we've been providing heading up to the trade deadline. Of course, we're going to have a lot of stuff post deadline. We'll talk about the buyout market. We're going to be talking about all the latest news around the league, all of that, giving our takes on stuff. Then we have a lot more takes on things that we're going to be providing post trade deadline. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. Donnie, thanks for jumping in here on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, sure thing. It was fun. I enjoyed it. We had over 1,000 people. We thought this was going to absolutely tank. So thank you everyone that hung out with us today as well.
Because we didn't promote it much. We just kind of said, hey, let's just go for it.
Let's do it. So
yep. But thank you everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.